know, my name is Mrs. Estep. I'm really nervous because this is the first time I have ever, like, really taught a lesson. I've always been, sitting in the back and watching and everything. This is my first time putting hands-on, so you just gotta bear with me, and we'll just see. Hopefully we'll do good today. But what we're gonna be doing is, she's got it written up here on the board. We're going over illusion and irony today. Has anybody ever heard of illusion and irony? Y'all familiar with it? Yes? Okay. But first thing I want to do is we're going to read this story called The Horseman in the Sky by Ambrose Bierce. And I'm going to pass out the story to you. And I've got an audio, and we're going to listen to the story. See y'all are my first victims. What about that? And if you all want to jump in, Miss Moore, at any time.
It's going to be what is it? Do we keep this?
Yes. It'll be a notebook entry 22, guys. Go ahead and put 22 on the top of it.
I can write it.
Go ahead, Riley. Thank you. Make her do double the work.
What are we going to call it?
She thought I was kidding when I said I shake.
Does everybody have a copy? Yeah. Is everybody ready? Okay. Are you ready now?
Our story today is called A Horseman in the Sky. It was written by Ambrose Bierce. Here is Roy Depew with the story.
Carter Drews was born in Virginia. He loved his parents, his home, and the South. But he loved his country too. And in the autumn of 1861, when the United States was divided by a terrible civil war, Carter Drews, a Southerner, decided to join the Union Army of the North. He told his father about his decision one morning at breakfast. The older man looked at his only son for a moment, too shocked to speak. Then he said, "As of this moment, you are a traitor to the South. Please don't tell your mother about your decision. She's sick, and we both know she has only a few weeks to live." Carter's father paused, again looking deep into his son's eyes. "Carter," he said, "no matter what happens, be sure you always do what you think is your duty." Both Carter Drews and his father left the table that morning with broken hearts. And Carter soon left his home and everyone he loved to wear the blue uniform of the Union soldier. One sunny afternoon, a few weeks later, Carter Drews lay with his face in the dirt by the side of a road. he was on his stomach, his arms still holding his gun. Carter would not receive a medal for his actions. In fact, if his commanding officer were to see him, he would order Carter shot immediately. For Carter was not dead or wounded. He was sleeping while on duty. Fortunately, no one could see him. He was hidden by some bushes growing by the side of the road. The road Carter Drews had been sent to guard was only a few miles from his father's house. It began in a forest down in the valley and climbed up the side of a huge rock. Anyone standing on the top of this high rock would be able to see down into the valley. And that person would feel very dizzy looking down. If he dropped a stone from the edge of this cliff, it would fall for 600 meters before disappearing into the forest in the valley below. Giant cliffs, like the one Carter lay on, surrounded the valley. Hidden in the valley's forest were 5 Union regiments, thousands of Carter's fellow soldiers. They had marched for 36 hours. Now they were resting, but at midnight they would climb that road up the rocky cliff. Their plan was to attack by surprise an army of Southerners camped on the other side of the cliff. But if their enemy learned about the Union Army hiding in the forest, the soldiers would find themselves in a trap with no escape. That was why Carter Drews had been sent to guard the road. It was his duty to be sure that no enemy soldier dressed in gray spied on the valley where the Union Army was hiding. But Carter Drews had fallen asleep. Suddenly, as if a messenger of fate came to touch him on the shoulder, the young man opened his eyes. As he lifted his head, he saw a man on horseback standing on a huge rocky cliff that looked down into the valley. The rider and his horse stood so still that they seemed made of stone. The man's gray uniform blended with the blue sky and the white clouds behind him. He held a gun in his right hand and the horse's reins in the other. Carter could not see the man's face because the rider was looking down into the valley. But the man and his horse seemed to be of heroic, almost gigantic size, standing there motionless against the sky. Carter discovered he was very much afraid, even though he knew the enemy soldier could not see him hiding in the bushes. Suddenly the horse moved, pulling back its head from the edge of the cliff. Carter was completely awake now. He raised his gun, pushing its barrel through the bushes, and he aimed for the horseman's heart. A small squeeze of the trigger, and Carter Drews would have done his duty. At that instant, the horseman turned his head and looked in Carter's direction. He seemed to look at Carter's face, into his eyes, and deep into his brave, generous heart. Carter's face became very white. His entire body began shaking. His mind began to race, and in his fantasy, the horse and rider became black figures, rising and falling in slow circles against a fiery red sky. Carter did not pull the trigger. Instead, he let go of his gun and slowly dropped his face until it rested again in the dirt. Brave and strong as he was, Carter almost fainted from the shock of what he had seen. Is it so terrible to kill an enemy who might kill you and your friends? Carter knew that this man must be shot from ambush without warning. This man must die without a moment to prepare his soul, without even the chance to say a silent prayer. Slowly, a hope began to form in Carter Drew's mind. Perhaps the Southern soldier had not seen the Northern troops. Perhaps he was only admiring the view. Perhaps he would now turn and ride carelessly away. Then Carter looked down into the valley so far below. He saw a line of men in blue uniforms and their horses slowly leaving the protection of the forest. A foolish Union officer had permitted his soldiers to bring their horses to drink at a small stream near the forest. And there they were in plain sight. Carter Drews looked back to the man and horse standing there against the sky. Again, he took aim. But this time he pointed his gun at the horse. Words rang in his head, the last words his father ever spoke to him. No matter what happens, be sure you always do what you think is your duty. Carter Drews was calm as he pulled the trigger of his gun. At that moment, a Union officer happened to look up from his hiding place near the edge of the forest. His eyes climbed to the top of the cliff that looked over the valley. Just looking at the top of the gigantic rock so far above him made the soldier feel dizzy. And then the officer saw something that filled his heart with horror. A man on a horse was riding down into the valley through the air. The rider sat straight in his saddle. His hair streamed back, waving in the wind. His left hand held his horse's reins, while his right hand was hidden in the cloud of the horse's mane. The horse looked as if it were galloping across the earth. Its body was proud and noble. As the frightened Union officer watched this horseman in the sky, he almost believed he was witnessing a messenger from heaven, a messenger who had come to announce the end of the world. The officer's legs grew weak and he fell. At almost the same instant, he heard a crashing sound in the trees. The sound died without an echo, and all was silent. The officer got to his feet, still shaking. He went back to his camp, but he didn't tell anyone what he had seen. He knew no one would ever believe him. Soon after firing his gun, Carter Drews was joined by a Union sergeant. Carter did not turn his head as the sergeant kneeled beside him. "Did you fire?" The sergeant whispered. "Yes." "At what?" "A horse. It was on that rock. It's not there now. It went over the cliff." Carter's face was white, but he showed no other sign of emotion. The sergeant did not understand. "See here, Drews," he said after a moment's silence. "Why are you making this into a mystery? I order you to report. Was there anyone on the horse? Yes. Who? My father.
Okay. So what did you all notice at the end that was so, ironic?
He killed his own father.
Yes, he killed his own father. So before we get into talking about the story in depth, I'm going to pass you all out these papers about illusion and irony. Oh, thank you.
What you need to have what you need to have those problems. Yeah, wait till I know that at the end, I
So everybody turn to the one that says, what is an illusion? Get on that side. Okay. So it says, what is an illusion? And an illusion is a reference to a well-known person, place, event, literary work, or art. And I've got some examples for you all down here. Would somebody like to read the first one for me? Okay.
I was surprised his nose was not growing like Pinocchio's. This refers to the story of Pinocchio where his nose grew whenever he told a lie. It is from the Adventures of Pinocchio, written by
Okay, so you all see in that first, in that sentence right there, it says, I was surprised his nose was not growing like Pinocchio's. By saying Pinocchio, they are referring to a story. So that right there is what an illusion is. Would anybody like to read the second one?
When she lost her job, she acted like a boy. Scrooge. They referred to buy and refused to buy anything that wasn't necessary. Scrooge was an extremely stingy character from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
So you all have heard people refer to somebody as Scrooge, right? Well, that could be an illusion in itself right there, because that is referring to the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Then I'll read this next one. It says, it is raining so hard, I hope it doesn't rain for 40 days and nights. So that is a reference to the biblical story. Y'all heard of the story of Noah in the Bible, 40 days and nights. That right there is an illusion. He was a real Romeo with the ladies. Romeo, of course, is the character from Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. So by saying Romeo, that is an illusion right there. We're referring to Shakespeare. And he was a good Samaritan yesterday when he helped a lady start her car. That right there refers to the story of the Bible of the Good Samaritan. So do you all kind of understand what illusion is? Then go ahead and turn to the back side. That says, what is irony? And if anybody want to read that definition for me?
Irony is the use of words where the meaning is the opposite of their usual meaning or what is expected to mean.
Okay, you all have, said, well, that's ironic. And down here are some examples of irony that I found. A man who is a traffic cop gets his license suspended for unpaid parking tickets. That right there is ironic, isn't it? And somebody want to read the second example? Let's see. You go ahead, you have it written.
The Titanic was promoted as being 100% unsinkable, but in 1912, the ship sank on its maiden voyage.
So that right there is ironic too, isn't it?
And then,
You can go ahead and read the one.
In Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, Romeo finds Juliet in a drug state, and he thinks she is dead. He kills himself. When Juliet wakes up, she finds Romeo dead and kills herself.
Okay, so that right there is definitely ironic. And then who wants to read the last one? You guys turn it back.
At a ceremony celebrating the rehabilitation of seals after an excellent the diesel oil spill in Alaska, an average cost of $80,000 per seal. 2 seals were released back into the wild, only to be eaten within their cycle as well.
So after they spend so much money, they go back in the wild and they're killed. So that right there is ironic. Yeah. Okay.
We saved you.
We said you
So now I know that you all have a copy of your story, and if you want, I just want to give you all take about 5 minutes, and you can use. Well, let's see. Can they write on the back of this? No. Can't. Well, if you want, just take out like a scrap sheet of paper. It don't have to be a full sheet, just something. And take about that 5 minutes and see if you all can pick out any irony or allusions. And then we'll, just whatever you can find. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yes, ma'am. Will this be a notebook entry?
Yeah. The other entry, guys, that she gave you were loose and irony to the end of 23. You're right up there.
Oh, okay, guys. Now, that's a better idea. Miss Howard said that instead of writing it on a scrap sheet of paper, why don't you just take out your story and underline it? That's what the other thing is. Oh, now I have highlighters.
Yeah, that's good.
That makes it even better.
So the,
Okay, so now you can highlight it in the story. Take your highlighter. That way you'll have it. Thank you.
Civil War failure.
Really, Madison?
Really, Madison?
I was just making sure.
What was it?
She asked me what type of war is this referring
I said,
to?
what war? What type of war?
She asked me what war is this? It's the Crusades.
Do you want us to like highlight the different colors?
No, just highlight if you find any irony.
What war is this, Madison?
The Crusades.
Civil War.
What she said was.
She asked me, what war is this? Oh my God.
Just take a few minutes to see if y'all can find some.
Does that have to be like the one that did it? Could it be like the other one?
Yeah, it could be,
Yeah. He loves it.
it may allude to it up here, yeah.
What is it?
I'm not.
Oh, that ugly.
Oh.
You're making me feel bad about it.
Do you want the overhead to put the paper up there to mark it with them, or? Oh, yeah, I'll get both. I'll get
The
one that I
overhead
haven't
can.
marked on yet. Okay, so let's take a couple more minutes. Open it together. Okay, so is everybody ready to go over it? Yep. So, by looking at this, what is something that you all notice right off that is ironic? Yes.
Oh, he's living in Virginia, which held the capital of the Confederacy, but he was north to fight for the Union.
That's exactly right. That's the first thing we can point out right there. He is a Southerner, but yet he's going to fight for the Union Army of the North. So that is the first irony that we see in this story there. You see that? You say I just pop these in?
Yeah. There you go. It'll take it a minute to focus itself. There you go.
Okay, so that's the first bit of irony that we find in this story. What else? Did anybody find anything else? Yes.
It said that he loved his parents, but he killed his dad.
Okay, that right there, that is ironic. Let's see, that would be
On the very back.
that would be probably on the last page. So we'll just wait on that one just a sec.
I don't want,
Did anybody else find one? Yes.
I don't want to lose it.
Okay, we'll wait for the illusion one. Anything else on this first page here that anybody knows that was ironic? Yes. What is it?
His cancer,
Right. He was camped a few miles from his father's house, right down here. Let's see. What about? Did you all think that it was ironic how he was sleeping on his job? So, did you all think that was? Okay, so let's highlight that. He was sleeping on the job. You say you have one?
The next page says, brave and strong as Carter was. Carter almost fainted from the shock of what he had seen.
Okay, so do you think that that was ironic?
Yeah.
Let's see, was that on page 2 or page 3?
Ooh.
Page 3? Well, you just keep that thought. Let's go ahead and turn to page 2. Anybody find anything ironic or any allusions on page 2?
Where it says that way, the messenger from fate came down to on charter.
Okay, so that was ironic that he was asleep, and as soon as the soldier come to the top of the cliff, don't you think it was ironic that he just happened to wake up? So we'll highlight that as one. Anything else on the second page? Anything different? Find something different?
He was very much afraid, he was hiding in the bushes.
So he think that was ironic. Would you think that was ironic?
He had all the advantages.
What did you say about it?
Said that he was scared, but yet he was hiding in the bushes.
Out of sight.
Well, if he was scared, then he was hiding in the bushes. He probably was scared, right?
No, he was already there.
He was sleeping.
He was, oh, okay. Sure, I can use that. Okay.
I think I found him.
Where was that at?
Okay. Now let's go ahead and turn to anybody find anything on the third page?
Brave and strong as he was. Carter almost fainted from the shock of what he had seen.
Okay. Brave and strong as he was, he almost fainted from the shock of what he'd seen. Okay. Anybody else have any ideas what would be ironic? What about down here where it says the last words his father ever spoke to him? Do you all think that it is ironic that just as he is getting ready to kill this soldier that he remembers these words and that's actually his father? So that right there would be ironic. What is it?
I think Carter might actually say that to the kid.
Well, now his father was the one who's up on the cliff, so.
I think he was in the bush, I think he
Yeah.
might have been saying it to him. As well.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
And you see him, he saw the rocket, so he was in that ambitions.
Yeah. Anything else on the page? Okay, let's turn to the last one. We've got some illusions. Okay. There is 2 illusions, and did anybody find them? So, you have any find them?
The first illusion I saw was in the first paragraph after he says, as Prime Officer walked towards the sky, y'all believe it was missing a messenger from the heaven. A messenger who had come to announce that he was purple.
Okay, right there, that is exactly right. Messenger from heaven. What does that refer to exactly? Okay, that refers to religion, right? So that would be an illusion. Or what about where he says right here, end of the world, that right there would be referring to religion as well, wouldn't it? Alright, and then at the very bottom down here, what is the most obvious irony that this story has?
Shut his father.
He killed his father. Okay. So did anybody have any that we didn't highlight or didn't go over?
I think I got one.
Did you have one? Okay.
On the second page.
On the second page.
And the third one, paragraph. Says, "His mind began to raise enemies, went to see the horse, and the water became black figures rising and falling in slow circles from the clear red sky."
Well, that doesn't exactly refer to though a specific, like a person or anything of literature exactly. See, like End of the World and what was the other one that we had? Messenger from Heaven actually refers to religion. Do you have one?
Yeah, on the first page, in the first paragraph, it said when the United States was divided by a terrible civil war, there was no allusion to the history nor.
Oh, that's good. You know, I didn't think about that one. That is really good. That's exactly right. That right there is an allusion to the civil war. Okay, did anybody have anything else? Any different ones?
Did y'all like this story?
Yeah. She's a reader. It's killing me.
It was so slow.
Parker's father.
I know I'm done a little early, but
Again.
So you have any questions about Louise?